episode 35. It's already been 35 episodes.
That just took me aback, and I already knew it was 35, but that's awesome. Congratulations, man.
Yeah. We've done a good job.
We have, yeah.
And
so
we've got a lot of support. Thank you guys.
Thank you guys. You know, a little while ago, I was super bummed out. You got to go see Scott Crowspeak.
Yeah.
I wanted to go. I couldn't get a babysitter. Mm-hmm. And you were going to record it for me.
Yeah.
And then your Tascam failed.
Yeah, it sucked.
And, you know, I haven't read any of his stuff. I've been meaning to. I'm just backlogged on reading.
Yeah.
And I was super bummed out. But we got to talk to him.
We did.
And that made my day.
Yeah.
It actually made my, month, probably.
Yeah, he's super awesome.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So, seriously, he got us thinking about things and, you know, in an awesome, fun way. Not you know, he's super serious all the time. Yeah. But, you know, it's just things that we've been talking about and feeling like between us and just he expressed them so much better than...
Being able to actually put words to our thoughts was awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And we appreciate that.
And it's great knowing that the things that I've been feeling and thinking about in the anarchist scene, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone in it. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. So, you know, seriously, enjoy this episode. I love it. It's probably, you know, it's right up there with my favorite.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yep. What's going on this week?
Well, we have a prisoner letter writing event on July 9th. That's Tuesday.
Anarchist Block Cross is putting that on.
Yeah. And it's going to be at the downtown Salt Lake Library. They
have everything you need to write a letter, and it's super important if you've never done it.
I can't say enough how important it is. It's one of the easiest things you can do to show support for our friends and prisoners that are down.
And they need it.
They really do. It's something that can lift your spirits in a way that you just don't understand. And it's amazing. So if you don't know what to write, tell
them about your day.
Tell them about your day. Whatever.
Tell them about a dream you had.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
There's few things that you really need to avoid.
And they go over that there.
Yeah, and that's just, you know, your legal stuff. But that's it. I mean, if you're nervous about it, don't be, honestly. Even a thank you card that says thinking about you means the world.
It totally does. So go to that if you can't write your own letter.
Yeah.
If you're worried about it, my voice is cracking. If you're worried about it, send us what you want to write. We'll send it off for you.
You'll send it off.
I will send. Jordan will not touch that shit. I will take care of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Besides that, we have a game night coming up again, July 27th.
University of Utah Ballroom.
Student Union.
Oh, God damn it. University of Utah Student Union.
I mean, we could occupy the ballroom. It's fun.
It'd be fine, right?
I mean, we haven't really set up a date for the student union, so
we'll just do the ballroom.
Yeah, we're a little behind on that. It's going to happen regardless of whether we get that or not. Check out our social media on that. We're going to be playing
Killer Bunnies.
Killer Bunnies.
No bunnies are harmed.
No bunnies are harmed. The bunnies are the ones doing all the killing.
They do.
If you've never played these games before, they're really fun. That's just like it's a
card game.
Card game. We have all the stuff that you need. You don't need to bring anything but yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's a super fun game.
And then we're going to have Cards Against Humanities.
And if you haven't played that, it's like apples to apples for terrible people.
Yeah. And if you don't know what apples to apples is, I'm sorry.
Yeah, but you'll still understand. And honestly, that's one of those games that if you show up but in a party and they're already been playing it for 2 hours,
it's still fun.
You can sit in and obviously, I mean, unless you're really good, you're not going to win, but it's just fun to play.
I don't even know we've ever kept track of winners.
Yeah, like the winning is the least important thing.
That's the least important part of that game.
It's about having fun.
Yep. It's about being terrible.
Yep.
And then, really quickly,
the
August 30th through September 2nd,
we're having Which Side Rendezvous.
Scaring me a little bit. It's coming up quick.
It's going to be super fun, though. We're just going to be having a camp at PR Springs.
Yeah, which is right next to the first tar sand and shell
mining site in the
United States.
Yeah, it's going to be super great. It's over the Labor Day weekend.
quote unquote Labor Day weekend.
We're taking that shit back.
Yeah.
We'll have May Day and this one, so fuck it. But yeah, we're gonna have super fun time. Gonna be playing lots of games. There's gonna be workshops, panel discussions. Don't take it too seriously though.
It's just about getting together
and just having
with
a good
awesome
time.
fucking people in an awesome area,
and we can learn things.
Exactly.
And that's all it is. And
I'm gonna hold a tofu class if anyone wants to learn how to make tofu.
And if people are interested, I'll do self-defense class.
We have yoga,
nature wilderness survival,
campground songs.
Your dad's gonna be coming.
My dad's gonna be coming, telling ghost stories. If anyone's interested, he'll do like the history of Native American instruments. He'll have a bunch.
Yeah. We'll probably let you play flute or something.
Oh yeah.
He makes Native American
and
flutes.
I am gonna have an undie fun run if anyone wants to join me.
That'll be fun for you.
Yeah. It'll be at night, like at midnight or so. About a quarter of a mile. Nothing crazy. Just lots of fun.
Yeah. Definitely gonna be prepared though. You want to bring your own food. We are gonna be feeding people.
Bring enough to share if you can.
But just to make sure, we don't know if we're going to be able to feed you every night. Hopefully we will be able to. We're working with Food Not Bombs and some other awesome people to help provide a kitchen that we're going to be able to feed you all with. And yeah, it's going to be super fun. Don't miss it.
I'm going to make bannock.
That'll be fun too.
Which is, if you guys don't know what bannock
bread,
is,
right?
It's a Scottish bread.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Super sweet. I'm gonna probably make lots of tofu scramble with the tofu that you make.
Yeah.
I'm fucking good at that shit. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So keep posted on whichsidepodcast.com. And
you can also check out tarsansresist.org.
That's right.
And yeah, super awesome. Salt Lake Anarchist Black Cross is also helping us put that on.
Totally. We will see you there.
Alrighty. Did we talk about how to help us?
We haven't yet.
We haven't?
Yeah, how can you help us? First, I want to notice, if you don't notice this, if we sound a little bit different right now, it's because we're using separate microphones.
And that's all thanks to you.
Seriously. And we actually have another one coming, because we're using the old I'm using the old microphone right now.
And I'm using the new one.
Which sounds amazing.
It does, doesn't it?
God, you sound like
you
Chocolate
like the
Rain.
Sound of my voice.
God damn it.
That's what I keep thinking of while talking in this mic. I think of Chocolate Rain. Da 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 da. It's because you couldn't hear my breath. See, I even have a better mic than that kid did.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we have the other one coming. Mm-hmm. We'll have pop filters. We'll have a real live setup.
We're DIYing the pop filters, so don't worry. That's going to cost us like $2 to make those. No. So don't worry about your money there.
Seriously, none of this is possible without you guys. We didn't pay for this.
No, this is super awesome.
This is all 100% user funded, and it's heartwarming. You guys totally have made my year, and it's awesome. But I feel like NPR right now because, quite honestly, we still need your continued support.
Yeah.
This shit is not cheap, and we
everything
pay for it out of our own pockets.
Yeah, and it even put you in the negative one time.
It has. Like right now, all the money we've gotten has been gone to the upgrades.
And the hosting fees.
And none has gone to hosting fees yet.
Yeah, none has gone to hosting fees. All the money that we've gotten from you guys has gone to
upgrades.
Which
it will still continue to go to until we get all the upgrades that we need, and then we'll start using it for hosting fees. But a couple different ways you can help support us. If you have already, seriously, thank you. And please consider continued support. And if you haven't, the best ways to do it is bondsofbeatinghearts.bandcamp.com. You can get their album. We get the money, all of it, which is awesome. You could go to our website, whichsidepodcast.com,
and you could donate via PayPal or even Bitcoin. But yeah, with PayPal, you can even send us a gift. We're whichsidepodcast@gmail.com. Or you just donate.
And we all know that boycotts, some people don't do them.
And sometimes you just need to fucking buy things. Not that it's justification and you're still a scab tonight.
So if you're gonna buy something from Amazon, you just have to, even though they're selling foie gras, if you're gonna do it, use our link.
They're also selling fur and meat and all sorts of other things.
You know how we feel about like single issue things. Like, it's a good campaign. I'm not putting down the campaign.
No,
I just wish they didn't, use animals at all. But the good thing is, if you're gonna do it and you use our link, guess what happens to Amazon?
They lose more money.
They do lose more money.
We get it.
Yeah. Don't go there unless you were already planning on it.
Yeah.
Don't give them extra money.
I mean, yeah.
We're terrible affiliates because of that. Don't fucking give them extra money. Just take money away from them that you were already going to give to them.
Yeah, and do it through our link.
And do it through our link. Exactly.
That's about it.
So, I thoroughly hope you enjoy, Scott. I love the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And I will see you at the game night.
Awesome. Yeah, this is Jordan.
Hey, what's happening, man? How are you?
Doing good. And this is Jeremy.
Yeah, I'm Jeremy. Nice to meet you.
Hey, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How about yourself?
I'm actually having a pretty damn good day.
That's
I had
awesome.
a pretty nice occupation. A pretty nice occupation last night, so we're kind of rejoicing from it today.
What happened last night?
I don't know if you all paid attention that there was a anti-choice, big old pile of anti-choice legislation that was going through in Texas. Mm-hmm. And I normally don't give a shit about electoral politics whatsoever, but it was a pretty big deal because it would have changed the face of what's happening around the country. And so anyway, a bunch of people decided to occupy the Capitol. And so thousands of us showed up last night and shut out the Republican senators and by default the Democrats too. So because it was a filibuster to try to stop the bill from happening. So we're up there for hours. I came back about 2 last night, and I think people got back around 4 after it was all over. But anyway, it was fun. It was kind of fun.
There's always a high
it was
when those things work out well. You always get it's so rejuvenating.
No, it was weird. And the thing is, I got no love for the Democrats. I'm not going to pretend that I do or anything. But it was just, but this woman had filibustered. She was supposed to filibuster for 13 hours, and she was 11 hours into it. And they started to procedurally knock her out. So people just started chanting in the hallways and stuff. And it was really, really cool. Anyway, so there was a big buzz around it today, and also defeated some Republican shit that's just shitty. Not that the Democrats are going to be that much better, but we got some pretty bad people here. Anyway, I'll quit bothering y'all with that. So thanks for listening.
No bother.
No
man.
bother. It's good.
Shit.
Yeah, you do always get a sort of high when things definitely go well.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, all right, so we can start turning the Capitol into a hospital over here. We can fucking start moving people in over here. We can totally take all those cars and we can build barricades with them. I was like, we were totally plotting. It was super fun.
Common ground revisited.
Yeah, exactly.
How do a lot of the Democrats take your activism like that, being more radical?
The thing is, it was mostly organized by your typical Planned Parenthood, women's choice groups and stuff like that. And there was a few anti-choice people there, and so we were a mix. I mean, but there was more anarchists I'd seen, and I'd seen some more anarchists there that I have seen in a long time in front of the Capitol, and maybe even almost 7 or 8 years. I mean, people who, like myself, who never vote and don't even believe in those systems came out because it was so important. And, and there was talk of occupations and stuff. And so it was just, I don't know, it was pretty, long-term occupations, hey, we're going to take over the Capitol if they try to railroad this thing through. So.
That's awesome.
So it just became a big catalyst. But anyway, it was good. So it was, so they took our voices with a minority, of course, in the whole thing. And the organizer was like, oh, shh, be quiet. And we were chanting louder, shut it down. So there was no black blocs or anything, though. So everybody's very cordial. Everybody's very nice.
I have always felt weird about black blocs because sometimes I think they're super amazing and super awesome and super productive, and sometimes not so much.
No, I'm with you on that. I totally am. And like, you know how the Capitol, I don't know how else Capitol is, but here you have to go through a metal detector and all this shit. So like it kind of loses its whole efficacy, effect. Like having to do that, go through the gauntlet like at an airport or something.
Yeah.
So anybody who would have gotten in anyway would have been totally stripped of anything and looked silly. So
I would have loved to see a line of black bloc waiting to go through like metal detectors though.
Well, I know, but you know what's so funny is if you have a CHL, a concealed handgun license, though, you don't have to. You can just like get passed on through. All you have to do is to show your card. So what if a whole crew of black bloc were lined up to go through that line, and you don't even have to do anything, and you come in packing heat? I thought it was so funny. I was like, oh my gosh, because a lot of people here carry guns, you know.
I don't know about there, but here it is unbelievably easy to get your concealed carry permit.
Oh yeah, it is here too.
Yeah, that's actually I think that'd be a fun thing.
It's like you're at the store and it's like liquor and cigarettes and there's candy, you know, and then there's like guns right there. So
It is Texas.
yeah, it's true. There used to be a liquor store called Double Shot out in Schulenburg, Texas. It was like you could buy liquor and guns at the same place. I was like, what a great combination.
Double shot.
That makes me want to go to Texas.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I thought it was great.
At least, do they have the drive-through liquor stores?
Of course they did, man. Of course. What kind of liquor store? But it was like, you know what? Give me a fifth of Jack and, like 500 rounds of 7.7, like 5.56 ammo or something, you know? I was like, shit, I don't even want to get out of my truck to buy it, you know?
That's our America.
That's America.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
So you just finished this tour. What are you up to now?
Are we doing the interview? Is this it?
This is it.
All right. I was like, all right, this is a great bullshit chat before we get going. I like that.
All we do is bullshit. Let's just be serious.
You know, then fuck it. I'm in. I'm totally in. So
we're anarchists. This is how we do it, right?
That's cool. You know, I get so used to the stock questions about things. You know, like so it's nice. It's a refreshing break from that.
What are the stock questions that you get?
Well, the first I got to do the thing about how I'm the greatest thing since sliced bread or something like that. And I'm like, oh shit, man, do you have to read that whole fucking thing? Like, please don't do that. The fucking bio hype. And then they get to the questions. It's like, well, tell us about common ground. Or like, what is anarchy?
What is anarchy?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you ever follow that up with in the UK?
Yeah. No, but if I was clever enough, I would use them. I'm so damn serious about it. So I was like, oh, yes, I'm very serious about this. So, no, but the tour was good. It was really, it was really nice to get out to Western states that I don't normally get to go through, and to get to visit with people that I don't normally get to see, like y'all. And because the thing is, like, where I'm fairly isolated in some ways in Texas, the way, because it's also, although a lot of people come through Austin, it's not a major thoroughfare for a lot of authors and stuff. Mm-hmm. And so anyway, I think it's really important to hit places that people don't normally go. I remember even being into music when I was into music a lot more when I was way younger. That it was like when a band would come through Dallas or through Austin or Houston or San Antonio, we drive to go see them because it was like, holy shit, they never come through. So
traveling around so much, like, what was your take on the anarchist scene across the United States?
It's fucking amazing.
Is it growing, or is it
It's huge. I mean, y'all forget I'm an old man too. So I've watched it just totally grow in the United States. I mean, definitely in the post Seattle, but watching it grow amazingly. I mean, we're everywhere. Any people who self-identify as anarchists at different levels we're everywhere. I mean, we're baking people's bread and we're taking care of people's kids and we're working at hospitals and schools and stuff. And it's as well as doing community gardens and black blocs and all the different projects and stuff. It's amazing how many people identify with the ideas of anarchy. And so what I feel sad about is that I get to see all these projects like firsthand, because normally like I don't get to a town late, like I got into SLC. I get to the town early so I can get to go, so people can take me around and see what's going on. I can meet people, and I know you'll have stuff going on, but it's like, I get to see all these amazing things that are happening, and I feel like it's a glimpse of things that people don't normally get to see, because, you might read an article online somewhere, or you might have you might get to a website or something like that, but it's different than when you get to actually see the projects. Like I was really fortunate, because when my book came out, I went around the Midwest, and so and then it's hit the East Coast and the West Coast, but so I went to 22 or 24 Occupy camps when all of that stuff was going on. It was kicking off in 2011, and it was just amazing to see the beauty of what was happening, and it was like in all these places that people don't normally get to see or know about. You heard about what was happening in Oakland, you got to hear about Philadelphia, New York, and a scattering of other places every once in a while, but it was everywhere. It was literally everywhere, and it's the same now. And so it's actually made me think a lot about that maybe we need to start having some encuentros and some consultas again. We haven't done it since the kind of the demise of the alternative globalization movements kind of in the early 2000s, and it'd really be nice to start having regional gatherings again, and then maybe build up to a national gathering. Mm-hmm. So where people get to consult face to face and see each other,
Well, I remember being at the DNC in 2000, and before that there was a huge anarchist conference. And it was like one of the most inspiring things I'd personally been to in a long time. You got to meet people you hadn't seen in years, and you got to meet new people. And there's cops, there's feds, there's all those fucked up things, but being able to get together is just so important, I think. Mm-hmm.
I think it is too, to make it real, right? To make to keep the humanity real.
Yeah, most definitely.
And you get so many more details about it, and to build those real relationships. Although I do believe, that we are networking in a different way through social media for sure, and that there's better more longer connections that can happen also. Because one of the things I've actually got to experience a lot too is that I've actually get to meet people before I go to see them in their town by having conversations with them. Obviously, I don't know them in depth, but I get to know them a little bit about even like things like their family pictures and stuff like that. And when I get there, then I get to really meet them. But there's like this little background with it. And I think the same thing is happening in our movements, which I think is really kind of interesting. Not in a larger way, but like in a more baby steps kind of way, where we do have these networks to do that. So maybe it's made consultas and encuentros not so important, or conferences not as important, although I might disagree with myself on that.
Well, what worries me so much is that you always hear people talking about security culture, but I think so much gets passed over on basic security culture on social media sites and on just the breadth of information that's out there on people and how they can piece together information, and not necessarily illegal things, but just enough information about people to scare the fuck out of you and to push it down that way. So that really scares me about constant networking as far as social media goes.
Right. Although, we've gone from this world that was totally different, where it was about printed word and letters and telephones and stuff, where you were networked in this really small way, to this way that you can that might be the new normal, which is to share everything. Yeah. Right. And this is a set of ideas that I've been exploring a lot. I don't know how it's going to be, but maybe hiding in plain sight is the new normal. Because we're not really hiding we're not really hiding from anything. We're just sharing it a lot more. I think about that, a lot on social media, how much I want to share or not. But it's gotten easier. And I feel much more protection in the transparency. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say one of the hardest things for me was, I think everyone that's important in my life knows I'm an anarchist. They know I'm vegan. They know my ideals. But the daily people I run into, it's not something I've always, shouted from the rooftops. But my current employer is my first employer that I've been really honest about being an anarchist and having my ideals. And that's been completely liberating for me. Scary as fuck, but really liberating.
But what a change in the last 15 years too, that you can be an anarchist and actually have a job and not have to be terrified about that.
Well, I'm terrified. Don't get me wrong. But it's like that ideal, like, I don't want people to have to be terrified, and you kind of have to live your ideal, you know, like...
No, exactly. You know, and I think it's also much more acceptable to say you're an anarchist these days. When Republicans are coming on TV to say that they're anarchists, you know, in this certain way, I mean, makes me think, oh my gosh, it's mainstreamed in this whole way. When they're making movies about it and stuff, you know, like even if they get it wrong, you know, like I'm like, oh my gosh, these ideas have totally mainstreamed.
Yeah. What I like about it is that if you just ran me a street like from work, you would never know. I'm like, look straight cut, you know, I have a 9-to-5 job, you know, like...
Do you put on a wig or something?
No, but, you know, it's just, you know, like all my tattoos are covered, you know.
Right.
You know, it's one of those things. I look just like a normal Joe Schmo going to work wearing a tie every day, you know.
Wow. Good on you for being able to dress and drag like that.
Personally, I have no problem with identifying as an anarchist. I think it's well documented in most of my public records.
Yeah,
but really, you think so?
I mainly worry about with social media is like when I first started having a lot of problems back when I erased most of my social media because I didn't want friends to be targets. And that was the only thing I was kind of concerned about.
Right. But here's the deal. So, in the hiding in plain sight, you know, set of theories is that the more people you network with, how can they it makes it harder to see.
To safer everyone. Like the bigger the group, the safer they is. It's kind of like
right.
Block. Yeah,
right.
Totally.
Like I don't know, and if I told you all this when I was in SLC though, but like you know, like when the Times article came out, everything was over by that point, right? We were just able to find out what had happened, right? Mm-hmm. But to a lot of people, it was brand new information, right? So like the guy at the grocery store, like all these people I had known, like, you know, just had friendly relationships with, because in the South we talk to everybody, right? You know, like you like it's not just a financial transaction at the convenience store. It's like, hey, how are you? You know, like how are your kids? Even if you don't even know the person's name, you know. And but even those people were like very supportive. One, because I was, you know, like they didn't know I was an anarchist because they barely even knew what that was. We got to have a conversation with it. But also they were just really supportive of it because I was a real person to them.
Yeah.
You know, and I understand that everybody can't be that. Like I have, a, you know, a set of, you know, I'm a talking white dude that does this a lot. But, you know, but what I'm saying is that, like, I think that transparency, and, you know, I didn't come in a black hoodie all the time and just fucking, like, blow them off. You know, like, the fact that I was a real person and engaging, not just the guy at the convenience store. This happened all over the place for a while. When, you know, I was working at a recycling center, and so like all the people who would come in were like, "Oh my gosh, we didn't know you were this and this and this," and like, you know. So anyway, what I'm just saying is that it was again that hiding in plain sight, like where people are like, "I'll give you, we want to give you support, like we want, you know, like if you need anything, let us know, blah blah blah." You know, it was hard to tell them, like, well, it's already over. Actually, you're just reading about it in the aftermath now. But you know, I would just say thank you, you know, to all the things. And I don't know if you ran into that in your case at all, you know, like with that.
Well, what I'm
finding... There's the black side of the activist communities, you know?
Yeah, I just love the idea, like the hiding in plain sight idea, is that you get more of that one-on-one interaction, and you show people that, you know, being an anarchist, being vegan, being from these radical standpoints, it's just normal fucking people helping normal fucking people. Like
Exactly. You know, when it matters.
Yeah, totally. You know, and that's what I think is the most important thing. And so I love that. I love it completely.
Right. And so, but you know, like, because we have been raised this certain way about privacy as our rights and stuff, I'm definitely, you know, like, and the thing is, I don't know if I'm right about this, because we won't know for, you know, unfortunately we can't know, but it's a set of ideas I've been exploring. It's just like, what does this hiding in plain sight look like? And when I say hiding, I don't, it's not really hiding, it's just a new paradigm, right?
Yeah.
That maybe we just share a lot more than we ever did, because obviously, social media hit on something as social animals that we wanted to be, you know, because I was on Friendster a long time ago. I skipped MySpace when it came out because I was already fucking burned out on Friendster. But you know, by the time Facebook came around, I was like, all right, I'll do it again. And because Friendster was dead in the water unless I was in Japan, and so I you know, like I don't know, I'm just thinking about these set of ideas, and it's totally counterintuitive to what we're told as far as civil liberties, and also as what we tell ourselves as activists, you know. And so but you know, again, it comes down to this thing, like 99% of the shit that we do is above ground. And if you look at other social movements worldwide, what did they always do? They hid in plain sight is what they call it. You know, they embedded themselves within it. You know, these are mostly communist, you know, organizations and stuff, but they embedded themselves with regular people. You know, I mean, that was the vanguardist whole thing. I'm not even talking about and even trying to do organizing and stuff. Like, I'm just talking about that it just might be the new way. So anyway, I won't belabor that any further.
No, I was just gonna say, how much do you think of that though helps us coming from the privileged standpoint of being white males and being able to do that?
Phenomenal amount, though. I mean, like, you know, like for me, like it might be a little different. Like, again, so like for me, like a platform like FaceCrack is actually that. It's a soapbox. Like, I can use it to communicate ideas and feelings and expressions, but it can also make me a real person and not just a mouthpiece. But I have, you know, like however many people I'm connected with on there, you know, at whatever level, like those people are not all the same kind of people. There's all different people with all different kinds of interests who happen to connect with me at some level. And so, like, I'll talk to some people, like, you know, maybe we're talking about animal rights or something, and somebody who's not even care about that at all will jump in on the conversation, or they'll see a post and they'll repost it into their networks, you know. And so I find that really interesting to see. You know, again, these are just idea explorations about stuff. And so, but again, it's making ideas real in different contexts. Fuck, that sounded smart for a second. That was totally like holy shit. Scratch all that. I was just saying, this is just a bunch of bullshit. You know,
We need to throw some dicks in there or something. Like,
oh my god,
yeah.
I haven't been talking to very many people about this. I've just been really thinking about these ideas.
Yeah, you can tell. You know, I think me and Jordan have been talking a lot about, you know, being open as being anarchists. We were just at a convergence campground where, you know, people that we know are anarchists are very hesitant to say I'm an anarchist just because there's liberals there, you know, and you're like, fuck that, you know. But
right. And I wrote about that in my book because I remember when I wanted to first start using the term in the late 90s, like, you know, this is 98, 99, I was very scared of it. And I was, you know, like, radical was way more easier to use. Obviously activist was easy to use, but it was weird how radical was much more accepted. And so, like to, you know, it's so funny because I get made fun of anarchists who have been long-term anarchists, like on the coast, and they're like, oh, I can't believe that was ever a big deal. I'm like, fuck, man, you got to grow up. You have to think that the experiences are different. If you're growing up in SLC or Dallas, Texas, or, you know, like Tulsa, Oklahoma, I mean, it's a definitely different vibe for that stuff, you know.
And for me, and I don't know about for Jordan, but coming from the animal rights movement, you know, and coming out as an anarchist, like, it was almost like all the people that you associated with it as hardcore animal rights activists started shunning you because now you're even more radical. Now they have to get away from you because you're the one that's crazy. And so it was also kind of hard, you know, being both growing up here.
Oh, that's really interesting because for me, it's actually the opposite experience because actually I came to anarchy through the animal rights and radical environmental movements in a larger way because the groups I was working with, a lot of them had affiliation with anarchist principles and ideas.
It was very like, there was a couple individuals, but they always hit it, you know,
right.
They never even talked about it. So yeah, it was definitely there as the underlying, but as soon as, you know, you come out and be like, yeah, it was, you know, I want to stay away from you.
You're right.
So
wow, this.
Yeah, it was crazy.
I think the social circle somewhat intertwined by the time I was.
It's gotten a lot better,
but it's definitely not fully intertwined.
Well, of course, because I mean, even in animal liberation and animal rights and animal advocacy, I mean, those are a lot of overlapping circles with a lot of spectrums within each of those, right? You know, so in animal welfare, even, you know, like, I mean, there's definitely, you know, definitely, you know, not a one catch all for all of that. I mean, and you throw anarchism in the mix. It's just it's just that's just more for the pyre.
So how do you balance not being a single issue activist?
Shit. It's easy to say because there's no one easy answer to anything. And I can't look at one issue without seeing how it relates to other issues. It's actually sort of what led me down the road to start to think about anarchy again. Is because anarchy was the only philosophical idea that was really looking at the interconnection of these that wasn't top down. That actually, and it was addressing environmental concerns and this is again the 90s. Environmental concerns and animal liberation issues. So. And so, because communists and socialists weren't addressing that kind of stuff, really. Even though they had intersectionality, in a lot of ways it was with this really strong, shitty class analysis. So, but what was the question again? I totally lost it. I started thinking about Dallas. I was like, oh, it's hot. And it was like,
No, I always find it very hard, being someone who cares about so many different things. It's just like, how do you balance being, not just focused on on one specific issue or one specific task?
But here's the thing: is that I don't participate in the politics of reaction anymore, hardly at all. So it's really easy. And where I'm at is and what we are naming again as intersectionality, which that word has just really come to the forefront in the last year for some reason, even though it's been around for 20 years. But I don't work on issues anymore. Although there's some pet themes that have kind of stayed throughout my life, like political prisoner issues, animal liberation issues, and then environmental issues. I don't per se like I don't go protest at Ringling Brothers all the time, or I don't work on Ringling Brothers campaigns to shut them down anymore, or anything like that. So I think it's a lot easier. Where I feel like my role is a lot these days is to help build economic engines through worker cooperatives, which is something I'm very interested in, because I think that we need to stop begging for money, and that we need to build self-sufficient, localized economies with jobs with dignity and respect that pay a living wage. They can also donate. There's a longer thing around that, but that's one major piece I work on. But that's got a lot of spectrums within that. The second thing that I work on a lot is disaster stuff, which has just been by default. It wasn't like I didn't set out to be a disaster quote unquote expert or whatever. But so I work on that in consulting on the front end, and then talk about the historical narrative of it and how we build things, and so. And then, I work with these different groups as things keep coming up. So that one has a lot of spectrums in it, too. And I don't look at it as a single issue. It's just something as a point of intersection of how we kind of start to engage different communities. And then the third thing I do is a lot, actually third and fourth. The third thing is I talk a lot. You may not have noticed that. and so one of the things I have the privilege of absolutely doing is be able to go around the country and talk to people and inspire them to do things. And that, man, I can't tell you enough how wonderful I feel being able to do something like that, just to be a fucking cheerleader, because I think we talk about negative things so often to reframe things in positive ways. And so that's that. And then the last piece is what I feel like where I've developed a lot more is taking all this practical experience and working in all these different movements and a lot of failures and a lot of mistakes that I've made and that others have made around me, and that I see that we've made as movements, and to be able to write about them and share them with different people, not just in talking form, but writing about it or consulting with groups, helping develop groups and doing that. And so those things, and all those categories, they're all kind of open-ended instead of just being like a single issue. We're trying to shut this lab down, or we don't want to cut this last piece of forest or any of that stuff. And so that's how I think I can stay engaged, because it engages me at multiple levels. Mm-hmm. Like each of those different pieces I talked to you about, they in my head are all interconnected. Even if I'm talking about disaster, people, I'm also talking about worker cooperatives. I'm talking about environmental issues. What I'm saying, it's all interrelated.
Yeah.
So I think I'm in a really good position as far as all that stuff goes now, and I have a great privilege. So.
Well, you said you don't do reactionary anymore. It reminded me of a quote by Bakunin where he said, "Planning after the revolution is reactionary." And I've never fully understood or grasped that, like, to be honest with you. And I don't know if you, like, how you feel about that, or like, just for some reason that quote's always bothered me for some reason.
Well, I mean, like, just as a knee-jerk without figuring out the context, because I hate quotes when you don't know what all who's writing around it, right? But you know, like, the thing is, we for the longest time, for decades and decades, it was all about ATR, after the revolution. What are we going to do after the revolution? And I think that, you know, definitely for the historical time, we realize that that's just not going to fucking happen. It's not one day it's all over, and that we have to really rethink that. And so, like, I'm you know, like, for me, like, I don't want to plan ATR. I want to plan the revolution is today, and the revolution is tomorrow, and the revolution is the next day. Because for me, revolution now is not just a personal quest or anything, but I see that it goes in fits and starts, right? Like, we don't have one day where everything falls down, or we bring the government to their knees, or they fall, or whatever happens, you know, whatever fucking apocalypse, zombies happen, whatever apocalyptic scenario we want to have, right? So, but actually, scientific socialism failed on so many levels, right? And we ended up with dictatorial socialism. And so basically what I see now is that shits and fits and starts, right? Like, and so that we build along the way. So when there's uprisings, we have these institutions that we have already built along the way that are liberatory, and that times are down, we have things for us to do, because things are going to be in fits and starts in different places, right? If climate change is the new normal. And I was just to tell y'all, this is all shit that's going to be in my next book that I'm talking about. I'm stretching out shit on you right now. So thanks for being great guinea pigs with this. No harm to guinea pigs was intended. So anyway, so what I think now is that when, you know, like, that we don't need to plan for some day in 20 years. We need to build for those days as they are, you know, like, as they are now.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, and that's maybe where I've had a problem with it, because, like, I've always had people use that towards me as saying, like, you know, you shouldn't be building now, you should be building after, not worrying about it, kind of thing. And I've always disagreed with that. Like, we need, you know, these institutions to help build for the revolution, because it is a slow process. Right. That's maybe why I've always had a problem with it. But
I think so too. But here's the thing: is what do we do as movements? This is the biggest problematic thing: is we have a politics of reactionary. We have very reactionary politics in this country. In fact, actually, all our movements are built on it. They're built on oppositional politics, and it really sucks because we always frame everything in terms of struggle and resistance and stuff like that, and that's all important. But, you know, like, in my talk, I talk about dual power. Like, every action must create at the same time that it resists. Right? If it doesn't do both of them, that we shouldn't do it. And that's a hard concept to go, right? Like, because if your emergency heart is pumping to tell you that you don't want KFC to fucking kill, you know, 40 million chickens a day so people can have fucking fried chicken or whatever, you're motivated to demonstrate against them, right? To whatever it is, to, you know, to have kinder, gentler cages, or, you know, whatever fucking people are, you know, or to say, like, hey, we don't need KFC altogether. But I would propose that there's another way that maybe we don't even do that, because we know that they're shitty and we don't want a kinder, gentler KFC. So what we want to do is that instead of trying to drive them out of business, create some alternatives that we actually fund and that we actually do things with that can actually help us to build our own counter power. Mm-hmm. It's just one idea. This is not the revolution. This is just a step in that, and that we stop wasting our resources.
That's right? Way fucking harder, though.
No, it isn't. It's not nearly as fun, right?
Yeah.
What's more fun? To stand in front of KFC and throw fucking paint bombs, or and you know, like, and yell at people, or to fucking, like, go, like, man, we're gonna have meetings for the next 6 weeks or for the next 6 months for a business that we're gonna build that's only gonna employ 4 of us out of the 20 people who are sitting here. You know, no, man, it's like, it's, you know. But the thing is that it's all necessary. And I mean, think about this in the broader sense, right? Like, if we think about all we spend on reactionary politics, like in time, labor, and money, which are all the resources that we have, which we have you know, limited amounts of, we spend millions of dollars a year on this stuff, on shit, chasing after one thing after another after another. I'll even say this in campaigns too, right? You know, like, but definitely in just like, hey, like, you know, like, Syria's getting, you know, like Syria's in civil war. We've got to do something about that. The prison industrial complex is you know, clamping down on people. We've got to do something about that. It's not because we don't need to do things about it, but until we create counter power, this isn't just about businesses, until we create counter power and until we really build and exercise our power from below, those things are always going to happen. Like there's always going to be war after war. Prisons are going to continue to be built until we abolish all of that stuff. Mm-hmm. And resistance is not going to be the thing that abolishes it. And the other part of this is that if we want people to be a part of our movements and not just not just the reactionary side of it, we need other points of intersection for people to get into, right? So the people can have childcare and jobs of dignity and ways that we take care of the elderly and stuff. Like all of these things that what I'm proposing is that we're rebuilding civil society section by section, piece by piece, neighborhood by neighborhood, not just one place. Like we don't need one info shop in SLC or in Austin. We need multiple info shops. We need multiple community clinics. We need multiple free libraries, that are accessible to people. These are localized. We need, food security, like all of these pieces, that whatever. And the thing is, but here's the real crux of it is that I'm not writing a plan and going like, this is the plan. I'm just proposing a framework for us to rethink the way we engage, and that you and your comrades come up with whatever the plan looks like for all of y'all and the people around you, and then we come up with ours based on these common ideas.
Yeah, one of the things that I've been struggling with lately is that, like, when I'm talking to people about anarchism and how you consensus building and how you operate and how you get things done, their biggest argument is always, oh, that's so slow and there's so much bureaucracy and blah, blah, blah. And I'm always, the one arguing for, slower is better. Slower is better. Make sure everyone, you're not trampling on people and people are doing what's best for society. But then at the same time, we want revolution now.
Yeah.
It's like that we realize, but we just want it. It's, you know what I mean?
Right, but that again, that's oppositional politics, right? It comes straight out. Like, dude, I am there, right? Like, we're all there. Like, the reason we come up is our emergency hearts, these beautiful things that we have that drive our passion and our compassion for things, and the anti-authoritarian streaks that we have are the things that initially drive us to be against all of these things, to react to all these things. But at some point, we have to move beyond it. But what happens is that a lot of people jump into the oppositional politics, and then they leave the movements. Because then they got to go get a job, and they got to go to school somewhere else, and they got to move, and they got to do all these things. And so what I'm saying is that we've got to have places for people who are moving beyond that. Like I love a good black bloc, but I can't do it for the rest of my life.
Yeah, how am I supposed to take my 6-year-old girl into a black bloc?
Well, I can. I mean, I would do actually.
But you know what I mean? Like, I agree. I'm just the first one to be
But the thing is, he didn't even want to do it all his life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we definitely have to build these things, and I think that building, because here's the truth of the matter. Like the way I see it, if shit fell down today, we are fucked.
Sorry, I wasn't expecting that.
I'm sorry. And I could say it more nicely, or if you want, but we are fucked because I'll give you an example. So the storm came ashore called Hurricane Katrina in 2005. You might have heard of it, right?
And, sounds familiar.
So I had worked with Anti-Racist Action for a number of years before then, since about 2002, when I moved to Austin. And we, it's an anti-fascist organization, and there's a lot of militancy in there, and we built up a tactical defense caucus. And these are people who are trained in armed self-defense, people who would work together in armed self-defense and stuff. And then we were networked with other people around the state who are also in this. So there's probably, let me just say, a larger number of people than you would imagine. It wasn't 4 or 5 people, okay? Because I don't need to help the government that much. But there was a larger number of people. And but I can tell you, when after Hurricane Katrina, when I went the very first time, and I saw what was happening, and we only took one gun with us, one pistol, and I came back, and this is only a week, and I came back, and I was going to come back the second time. I met with all of these people who professed armed militancy, people I love and trust. I'm not bad-mouthing them. And I went to a meeting of 60 or 70 people who weren't not all of those people, but it was all these people. And I said, look, this is the situation that's going on. This is what has been asked, where people are asking for armed self-defense in their community, and they're asking for white people to come and do it, who are willing to do it. And was anybody willing to do this? And you know what? Out of all those people, you know how many people came? One. Brandon Darby. He was the only person who came.
And we know what happened
And
there.
Well, exactly, but the thing is, it doesn't have to turn into a Brandon story. But I'm just telling you, like, I want to illustrate it that there wasn't a lot of people who were willing to do it in that situation. So if shit fell down all of a sudden, what are we gonna do? And you know, like, and when I say we, I'm talking about largely anarchist, you know, the radical, very, very radical left. You know, like I don't mean like we as in people in general, and you know, like. I think actually there's more people in the libertarian right who would actually take up arms and do all this. And again, this is not a call for militancy or a call for arms. I'm just saying, like, we are just not that organized, right? Because we have been stuck in oppositional politics for so long that we haven't built very much infrastructure in many of our communities. Now, and again, this is a broad brush that I'm painting it with, but I'm not, like, there's definitely communities that have certain things that they have that they can lean back on, like in the Bay Area or in parts of Northern California. You know, like Asheville's got some things, Austin's got some things, and SLC may have some things also, but by and large, we don't have much to fall back on. And that we would totally, and so anyway, and I'm not even trying to like have an apocalyptic scenario, but I just think about this, like, we are not prepared for stuff. And so, like, and I think oppositional politics, being stuck in that is one of the biggest problems that we have and one of the biggest obstacles that we have of ourselves that we don't even see.
You know, me and Jordan were talking about this the other day was, you know, when shit hits the fan, people just want power, water, and food, and they'll go to anyone who can give it to them. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
They want security, you know? And so, as a community, you're totally right. We're totally not prepared when it comes to that.
Mm-mm.
No, and you know, and again, like, not even, so why don't we get prepared? Like, you know, like, not even around disasters, but why don't we just be prepared, like, in different ways? Like, and so, like, so again, it comes back to this proposal of ideas, and I didn't make this shit up, you know. Like, I'm just synthesizing, you know, a long history of political movements, right? Obviously, but things that we have forgotten about for a long time, you know. So. Anyway, it's just you know, another set of ideas that I think about a lot, and because I really, really want us as political movements to stop being reactionary to stuff, and to see it, because it's interesting, because it's like when I talk about it a lot of times in places, you would thought I had just dropped a turd in the punch bowl, you know? because people are so like. Either they don't see it, or they're like, oh my gosh, we can't do that. We must protest this. You know, like, people are dying in Syria. And I'm like, listen, they're going to keep dying in Syria until we change everything. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that, like, we have to wait 20 years, but I'm saying until we start to change it, and we have to start changing it today, and not appealing to power by exercising our own power from below. So, and you know, and the only living examples are for me are, you know, what's happening with the Zapatistas right now, what's been in other autonomous movements in Mexico, what's been happening in the landless peasant movements in Brazil, what's been happening with farmers in India, in these small pockets. You know, these things are some of the things that give me hope, that are not appealing to electoral politics to do things, who are trying to build it themselves in networked ways. Their alternative globalization is really what they're trying to do. And, you know some of the worker co-ops in Argentina. Yeah. So, and again, these are just some examples. And I think it's a little harder here because we're in the lap of luxury, and so we have the least to, we have the most to give up, and we don't get to see it. You know, like, we're not starving today, right? Yeah, I mean, none of us are. I mean, there's some people that might be hungry, but we're not starving. I mean, we're not a country that's going hungry, by and large.
Yeah.
Man, I'll stop pontificating. It seemed like it got all serious all of a sudden.
Yeah.
What's that?
I forgot to tell you, I'm like a fucking jukebox, man. If you just punch the button and just start talking, I'm really sorry if that's too much.
No, we're like this all the time. Like, recording or not, this is just normal life.
Yeah,
but I feel like I'm dominating the conversation. It's y'all's show. I mean, y'all did invite me on, but it's y'all's show. Like, so.
Yeah, but we never get to really hear you talk, so, you know.
Yeah. Jeez.
But perfect opportunity to segue into a Reddit question.
Oh yeah. Some people on Reddit wanted to ask you a question.
Oh, they actually did respond. Oh, good.
Yeah,
good.
They did. I saw that you retweeted that. I was like, oh shit, he caught us.
No, I like that. I want to see. It's interesting to see. You know, the thing is that, like, it's weird because, like, I'll here. Let me just throw the narcissism thing out for just 1 second. It's interesting because I think the stories I've been telling, people have really wanted to catch on to, because I've been interviewed a hell of a lot Some people say I've been interviewed more than any other anarchist besides Noam Chomsky in more recent times, and I find that really interesting. But one of the things that happens is I get asked the same damn question so often. I'm like, well, didn't you just read that interview or listen to that those other 25 interviews I just did about this? And so when y'all were putting up on Reddit, I was like, oh, great, because then it's like crowdsourced. We'll see, like, there's questions that they're not stuck into that people may want to hear.
Yeah.
So now we can take the spotlight off. Sorry about that. Thanks for letting me.
I hope this isn't one that's been asked before.
I'll totally let you know.
Well, you did talk about working with disasters, and also you did mention Hurricane Katrina. The question that they had was, do you think the large media companies ignored the work of Common Ground Collective in the aftermath of Katrina? Occupy Sandy did somewhat the same thing as Common Ground, but got more media attention than you due to the Occupy name.
No, not at all. Actually, Common Ground got a huge amount of international coverage. Because of the privilege and because we worked the media, we have a lot. But remember, between then and Sandy, what became the game changer was social media. Mm-hmm. Right, but if you use one of those LexisNexis searches, there's literally thousands of entries about Common Ground, it was the same. It's always the same when these things happen, but now, because the way the news aggregates and archives on the internet, it's harder to find those articles now. Right, but unless you pay a service like LexisNexis to get them, or somebody has access to it. But no, there was not, and Common Ground by far got more media coverage than probably any other organization that was a grassroots organization. That was not like United Way or Habitat for Humanity. And there was a lot of contention around that about all the media we got, because there was other grassroots organizations like the People's Hurricane Relief Fund, which was a radical people of color led organization that were mostly people that were there from New Orleans, but we by far and away got more media coverage than them. Now, was that white skin privilege? I would say no. I think it was strategic on one thing, and then two was the narrative that we told also, right? We told narratives of revolution and stuff, and we told the politics of possibility. Mm-hmm. I mean, these aren't ideas I just started last week. These are ideas I've been working on for a decade, and so we told those narratives, and I think that was a hook, to a detriment to a degree. Now, did the media stories get it right? Of course, they never get it right, but they got it right enough. I got interviewed by CNN probably 2 weeks into it, and they were like, I talked about us being anarchists and all of these things, and they made sure to frame it as that we were the good anarchists.
As opposed to?
Well, I don't know, because they never qualified it. So, no, but there was a lot of good, and like Malik Rahim, one of the co-founders of Common Ground. I mean, he was one of GQ's Persons of the Year.
Yeah.
But the thing is, like, if you were 14 or 15 or 16 or 17 when that was going on, and now you're 20, 21, 22, and you just did Occupy Sandy, you're not going to be aware of any of that stuff. Mm-hmm. So this is not a detriment. I'm not trying to kick anybody. I'm just saying you would not be aware of it, and it's hard to aggregate the news. So, and actually, I'm doing a website now called cgstories.org. That's like Common Ground Stories, cgstories.org, and it's going to be an archive site for Common Ground. I actually literally have thousands of photographs I've been collecting. There will be videos, and eventually there'll be links to all these articles, and
that's amazing.
People's personal blogs and stuff. And so it'll be an archive for research, an archive just so people can post their stories to it. Just so we can have it. And it's the good, the bad, and the ugly. It's not only the good things about Common Ground. It's not a hype site. I mean, there'll be a lot of stuff in there that's critiques of Common Ground and stuff too. And I just want people to have it because there's so many questions about it. So is that did that make that answer way too damn long?
No. I think that's good.
Okay.
What advice would you give to young kids just coming into these radical themes, like getting into anarchism, getting into social justice movements, getting into animal rights, or what kind of advice would you give to them?
Well, follow your passion. What drives you? Your emergency heart is obviously kicked into action. And what is it that drives you? Is it because you don't want to see animals killed and tortured? Is it because you don't want to see the natural world destroyed? Is it because you care about immigration issues and you think there should be no borders? And start to follow that first. And keep your mind open along the way to other things that are connected with that. Like how does immigration relate to border issues? How does it relate to racism? How does it relate to prison industrial complex? Again, you start to find the connections in these things. But really, just start with that, and don't wait on others to do stuff. If you're in a community where nobody is, like say you're outside of Dallas somewhere, or you're outside of somewhere in Wisconsin or Minnesota or something, like it's just a small town, don't wait on somebody else to do it. Figure out the way that you can make something happen. And there's so much connection these days. And recognize that you're not alone. I think that's really, really important. I think it's less so now. But recognize you're not alone in doing this, that there's thousands of us. There's millions of us, actually, whose emergency hearts are beating in passion to do stuff. The next thing, especially for young people, is that what we know now as the surveillance state and the surveillance industrial complex and all of that stuff is all new. It hasn't always been like this. And to a larger extent, I would say that everything that we know about capitalism and the world that you've grown up in today is not always been like this, and that we can unwind it, and that we can take it down, and that we can dismantle it. It's not impossible. It's just the timelines. It may not happen if you're 20. It may not happen by the time you're 21, but it may happen. It may happen in 4 generations, but it will happen because all empires fall. Mm-hmm. It's inevitable. So what is it that we're going to replace it with? Or what is it that we would propose as a counter to that? And so those are some of the things I would talk to people about in no particular order.
Yeah. I like the all empires fall. It's good to remind ourselves of that.
No, it is.
Statistically, every 200 years, so we're due for...
Good. What is that? What's that thing where everything moves a lot faster now? We're going every 18 months. Like every 18 months, we're gaining 10 years or whatever it is. Like technology. Well, everything's moving at hyper speed like that.
Was that law?
Oh shit!
I can't remember.
I know.
You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah. But capitalism is tricky. It's been pretty damn tenacious. And so I think that we need to be very conscious of that. How do we change our power relations with each other? And I think that one of the problems that we run into largely is, I'd say I'm an anti-capitalist, but I'm not anti-anything. So I actually want alternatives to capitalism. Is that anti-capitalist? We have forgone that we are still fish in water. And that so we're so anti-capitalist that we want to dumpster dive and squat and do all these things, but everybody can't do that.
Yeah.
Right? At this stage, we can't. And so we need to create these other things that actually can create jobs with dignity or worker co-ops is not the only thing. It's just a piece of it. But we need to figure out new ways to exchange with each other and have power relations.
It reminded me when we were interviewing people on May Day. One of my favorite things that came out of it was a kid said, the revolution won't come about through dumpster diving.
That was definitely one of my favorites.
Yeah. I love that.
But you know what? All those skill sets work when stuff comes down. I mean, food not bombs, gets kicked all the time. But because we had that in play after Hurricane Katrina, people were able to put it into play. After Hurricane Sandy, people were able to put it into play. The street medics that we'd had for a long time, again, after a disaster, people were able to put these things into play. And not just nationally. I mean, Common Ground people and people in Common Ground's networks went down to Haiti immediately, in 2008. And so these things are there, and so it's good to build it, but we just need more of them. We don't need just... We need more of these examples, to make it happen.
One thing I always like to keep in mind and talk to people about is that huge change doesn't have to come from a lot of people. Revolutions happen from a very small amount of people.
No, totally. And that's really, 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 really true. And even like last night, we were resisting power. Capital P power, social, cultural, economic power, because I didn't care about the Democrats or Republicans, but it wasn't, considering how many people are in this state? There wasn't very many of us. Up to 10,000 people were there last night.
Yeah, but how many millions people are you representing? You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Up for,
that's the whole thing. But I think had shit really gone down and we said there's an occupation going on, I think more people would have come out.
Yeah.
Now, how many people would stay after that? I have no idea. We'll find out. So.
Well, speaking of younger crowds, I know that you probably just love talking about it, but do you want to kind of describe what Common Ground Collective was and in your experience?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, Common Ground was, it was actually what I like to describe it as a beautiful train wreck. So it was this incredible machine that we built that was careening down the tracks at 900 miles an hour, right? And it was like almost falling off the tracks regularly. And every once in a while it would just collapse over on itself. But what we did was that we took the idea, we didn't take the idea. We saw a disaster, and I took the political organizing and my anarchist beliefs and principles and decided to start an organization that would build counterpower. Now, we didn't call it that. We said we'd build infrastructure that had never existed before, and we'd help people to rebuild infrastructure that had collapsed long before Katrina came ashore. And so the idea was to help people in those communities build their power block by block and neighborhood by neighborhood. And to do it by asking them what they needed. And it could be basic service work, built on things like using street medics and food not bombs and things like that. Or it could be actual putting our bodies in front of things. Common Ground volunteers numerous times put their bodies in front of machines to stop them from bulldozing people's houses, from bulldozing public housing. Common Ground volunteers, risked arrest, doing cop watch and stuff. And so what Common Ground did was basically it just became another way for anarchists to organize in decentralized ways. But at the same time, we were practicing democracy, just like people in the Occupy movements were practicing democracy, because we haven't had a lot of practice here in long-term things. And so people got to come and stretch their legs out internally within Common Ground, and we got to see what does participatory democracy look like with thousands of people coming through it, who are residents of New Orleans, who had never heard of these ideas, and volunteers who would come from around the country who were also doing this. And so basically, I mean, like in a nutshell, it was the largest anarchist-inspired organization in modern U.S. history. And I say that not with bravado, but with the truth of it. We had, to date, I think there's like 38,000 volunteers have come through, and we've served over 500,000 families not just in New Orleans, but you're talking about all through the Gulf Coast. And that's not just serving them like in one way, but in multiple ways. And we just started building projects. But really, if you think about what we did, was that we started to rebuild civil society infrastructure, again, block by block and neighborhood by neighborhood, with the people of New Orleans and along the Gulf Coast. That's really what we did.
So what's in the long term reaction for those residents towards, especially anarchists and revolutionaries?
Well, the thing is, we didn't always wear our politics on our sleeve, right? You didn't have to sign a paper saying you were an anarchist to be a part of it, right? Mm-hmm. You just had to agree. You had to abide by these principles and these ideas, which were anarchist influence, right? And that decision making was done by consensus. That we had, that we were trying, that we were having general assemblies with people. That again, all these decentralized modalities that we were trying. That we were basically all these projects operated as affinity groups. We had spokes councils. And I say all these things now, but they weren't always clear. It was much more murky at the time as things were going. Not because we didn't have experience. I already had years and years of experience with these models. It was just always hard to get people to understand them in those terms, or to agree to them in those terms. But from our interaction, it was our main thing was to always set these programs and projects and institutions up, and then train the communities to run them for themselves. If we didn't set it up with the community, then we set this up and then we'd let them take it over. And what was different about us or the military, because the military was trying to do the same thing, or other nonprofits, is that we didn't try to have power over, we tried to have shared power. Again, it's that solidarity and mutual aid instead of just charity coming down from the top. And so So the response has always been fantastic. It wasn't good with, we always had tenuous relationships with those people who self-proclaimed themselves as the leaders of the radical organizing in New Orleans. That was white anarchists. We still have, Common Ground still has a terrible relationship with a lot of white anarchists in New Orleans, who, if I could say, quite honestly, many of them couldn't organize themselves out of a fucking paper bag.
What caused that problem? Was it just like a power struggle? They wanted power, or
no? It was much more complicated than that. But they lost their homes, they lost all their infrastructure. A lot of them had to evacuate out. Horrible things happened. But two, there's a huge colonial oppression that permeates New Orleans, because it's one of the most exploited. It's the most third world, and I hate to even use that term, but most like the global south of the United States and anywhere in this country. And so it has a very colonialized, under siege mentality, and there's a lot of infighting from that, instead of really challenging power, because there's so much corruption and that goes on around. It's Louisiana, it's not just New Orleans, that it's easier to fight with each other about things. And this was going on way before New Orleans. And so that, with the fact that all of their lives were basically destroyed, and then the third thing is that they wanted power. Yes, they definitely wanted to exercise their power in their way. It caused a lot of conflicts, and it led Common Ground astray in some ways, because we would try to follow people of color, like to follow their leadership, because that's what you're supposed to do as a good ally. But it was like they weren't leading us anywhere. They were leading us to dead ends sometimes, but other times we worked very powerfully together on different components, where we were doing the heavy lifting and they were doing the ideological part of like trying to get the road home and make sure that that people, that their voices were counted, so it was a good thing and a bad thing along the way. It was a spectrum of like anything. It wasn't a binary. But the anarchists felt like they were shut out, but they couldn't organize, right? Like they had a Food Not Bombs chapter that had existed for a long time, but the people who were organizing were all spread across the country, and many of them didn't come back for weeks or months or even a year. And so they have this ownership of it that still exists today. And so, like in my own personal experience, I when I went back, I just spoke recently in New Orleans twice over the last few months, and had a very contentious conversation with a lot of them about, why we came and pretended to be the great white saviors. I'm like, that's not in any of the literature. That's not in what we said. And that's absolutely not what we did. Not even unintentionally, I'm not saying that racism from white volunteers didn't permeate, but it definitely is what happened. It is what it is. So it's just complex dynamics in all of this. But instead of saying like, hey, we want to air our concerns and have a conversation and dialogue around it, they would rather vitriolically, spew on social media about it still, 7-8 years later.
Wow, I can't believe it's been that long when you actually say that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know. Man, it's weird how much time goes, And when I came out of New Orleans, I was on this rocket because I could see, because I had PTS, and I was like, I thought I had just survived near-death experiences, right? I wasn't the only person to do that, but I can only talk about my own experience. And I survived, and I was like, I felt like Superman, like nothing could hurt me. Like I was like, you can shoot me, you can do whatever, I don't even care. It doesn't matter. I'm willing to die. Like after I came out, like even after I was like in regular world. And the second thing though is I felt like I started to count the days on how much time I felt like I might have left on this planet, and then I needed to do a bunch of stuff before I died. And that's something I still think about now, even as we go 8 years later, but it's way less. But it was very intense when we came out, and it's something I see in a lot of ex-prisoners when they get out. And Jordan, I don't know if you could even, if you ever felt that, like this, like your emergency heart's in overdrive, where you felt like you missed out on this amount of time, and you're like, oh, I got to do all these things right now. And
then I got the fear of the retaliation afterwards of all the things that I want to do, and then the probation and all that other stuff. Even though, it's.
But that shit's just temporary, It's just temporary. Even if it's years, it's just temporary. It sucks all along the way, but it's definitely temporary, And so anyway, so I digress. But definitely Common Ground at different times has had different relationships. But the residents, if you go and you talk to people in any of the communities, and I'm talking about thousands of people, man, you don't hear bad things about Common Ground. I'm not saying it's perfect, like it was all hunky dory, because we did. There's a lot of shitty things and a lot of challenges that we had internally and externally. But you hear so many good things because people put their bodies on the line when it really mattered in real ways, and they didn't talk down to people. Everybody's treated with dignity and respect, no matter what social status they had or didn't have. And so I think that matters a lot. And also Common Ground's still there. I mean, of all those grassroots organizations that are not religious or weren't all the big ones, like, again, like Habitat for Humanity, Common Ground is one of the only ones. Is like one of a handful, really, out of thousands that came up.
One thing that really shocked me is when you were talking, you said that there were FEMA volunteers that were actually using Common Ground Collective for hospitals and stuff like that. Is that correct?
That was the director of FEMA.
Oh,
the woman who was the Louisiana director came. No, it wasn't. No, the thing is, it's like Occupy Sandy was like, oh, the National Guard came and we were able to show them stuff. That stuff was what we did all the time. I mean, I'm not saying like, hey, we did that first. I'm just saying like that was normal. That was par for the course because they were obviously. They were watching our models to see what we did. And, like the National Guard, they built a clinic and they couldn't understand why nobody was going. At the same time, we were running a clinic 7 days a week, 18 hours a day. And they were running this clinic that they were announcing. It was only open like 2 days a week for 4 hours. But they would go and announce it 5 days a week that you could go to it. And nobody was coming and they couldn't figure it out. So they just turned it over to us because we could operate it. Because what they started to realize is that we could interface it because people were scared of the military.
Yeah.
And then they opened up another space where they came and cleaned out a building for us to open another clinic that they were going to open, and they decided that we'd run it. The Center for Disease Control used the numbers from the first Common Ground clinic because, I don't know who it was, but a couple of people had really good organizational skills and started to keep they kept really good records, anonymous records of everybody who came in and every symptom that they came in with, and so they were able to track the vectors as the diseases were moving throughout. Because we all were sick a lot, and so they were able to track it. And the CDC came through Common Ground all the time to get those numbers. When they went, when FEMA or Red Cross wanted to interface, in many communities, they came to Common Ground to do things. It was like, again, we weren't the gatekeepers, but we had built a lot of relationships that were truly power-sharing relationships that they could not do because we didn't have the baggage around us that they had.
What's the biggest advice you'd give to people in that type of organizing community?
Do it all, and don't be afraid of what the state's going to do. Just lawyer up for it. And dream big. It's a little bit easier now because there's some narrative histories that you can draw from, right? Like, so the people in Oklahoma could draw from, not only New Orleans, but Haiti, and then also Occupy Sandy. And then so for the Occupy people that were doing stuff in OK, I was able to help them, but there's much more narratives to talk about that. The other thing is to start to plan now, right? Like like the things that we would be doing now for the disasters that might happen around us can only help us strengthen our communities where we are already. And so if we build food security, I don't know what kind of, like specifically for SLC, like what kind of threats do you have? But like in Texas, like drought is a big deal. Water running out is a big deal. Like that's a significant concern over the next 20 or 30 years. And so for us, any food security, water security, things that we can build to take care of ourselves is only going to help us if some major disaster was to happen or something. I've been consulting a lot with people in the Bay Area because for them, it's not like if another earthquake is going to happen, but when is the next earthquake going to happen? And so preparing now for all those things. And if none of that shit ever happens, what's the worst thing that happens? We've changed our relationships with each other. We've built liberatory counter institutions that are living and dynamic, not like old state institutions, but living dynamic institutions that are transformative and can be temporary or long term. And then we've also, we're able to take care of each other and people around us, not just our friends and people in our cliques, but also those that are around us, And then I'm like, shit, man, is that so bad?
No. No.
Yeah. No.
You can say it's bad if you want. I mean, I might disagree, but
you're saying things very eloquently that I've been feeling for a long time.
This is the problem. I didn't make any of this shit up. It's on the tips of everybody's lips everywhere I go, but we're not having the conversations in person about it. Yeah. So again, we come back to the consultas and the encuentros and stuff, and we start to talk about these things. It's not happening just in the United States. It's happening in Canada. It's happening in Mexico. They're having these conversations. I have some expatriate friends who travel between Oaxaca and Chiapas a lot. I know that's happening in autonomous communities around there. And I know it's happening in other places, So we just need to start to have these conversations, right? And so now I feel like one of my roles is to start to have this conversation. And so that's what I'm doing. And this book was one piece of it. The next book will be another piece of it. And actually, there's going to be a revised edition of Black Flags and Windmills. It's going to be out in the spring. And it's going to be expanded. And I'm actually going to talk about a little bit more about disaster stuff, actually, like preparations in the days before, as part of this talk that I give now that's just about that. And then... But I think we need to have these conversations. And I just wrote a new piece about the long history of mutual aid in disasters, economic and ecological, the 100 years of that. And it's supposed to be out in Freedom Voices soon, as soon as they post it, and then I'll start posting it around. But I think that we need to have conversations around it. But also, this is a learning curve for me, right? Because like you have to understand that even though I was part of all these things, I was pretty isolated in Texas for a long time after that, and all the shit with the FBI and all that stuff started to come to the surface, and I was really insular, and so really I have my very safe friends and family and comrades here, right? But I didn't know how these ideas were going to translate into the outside world, and so I started going around the country and talking to people, and now I've talked to 5,000 or 6,000 people, and I see that these ideas are everywhere, that people are wanting to figure it out, and so now I'm trying to put them into a framework to have a conversation about it, so that we start to move these dialogues in these ways. Again, not trying to control it, but just as facilitation of it.
Yeah.
Well, how do you think that we could get people to have these dialogues without having to have a disaster happen before we can start organizing?
By doing exactly what we're doing now, talking about it, and figuring out how do we organize these things without a disaster, and to start to think. Fundamentally, you have to if we are radicals, if we are truly radicals and revolutionaries, we have to start to think differently. And I don't mean Apple differently. I mean differently, that we have to think, we need to challenge ourselves in a lot more ways. It's interesting as radicals and revolutionaries that we will challenge so many ideas in so many ways, but we still carry a lot of the baggage of not being able to challenge ourselves in certain ways. Right, some examples of what's happened around BDSM and sexuality this spring, and also around trans issues around the spring. Shows the spectrum and the schisms within radical and anarchist thoughts around this stuff, and feminists in general. And so, we need to stretch it around these other ideas. And so, for me to say that maybe you shouldn't protest, what would happen if your community didn't protest for a year, is almost unfathomable to people. But there's a time when we have to say that, ya basta, enough. We must think of something else. And when I look at the groups I look to are not protesting. The Zapatistas are not fucking protesting. The people in Oaxaca they have protested, but they're not protesting every day. The people, these communities they protest when it matters. Right? Again, so when I went to the State House last night, and because I felt strategically, well, no, I didn't feel. Strategically, I thought it mattered to show up for this. Not because I cared about the electoral process, but because it meant so many on so many other playing fields. And so I think the same thing is that we challenge our ideas and we start with those conversations, and then we start to build outwardly from that.
I agree.
You just got me thinking so much.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Sorry. We can talk about bullshit if you want. I just saw World War Z, and it was awesome.
Was it actually good?
You know what? The thing is, look, again, frame it for one of those kind of blockbuster movies. It was amazing. For a good movie in the scheme of great movies, no, it was terrible. Sure, but compared to Superman and all these other crappy ass movies that come out, it was fabulous. Because it took a lot of the very, usual tropes in movies and kind of turned them on their heads. I mean, Brad Pitt he barely carried a gun in the whole damn movie.
Good.
I mean, for a lead hero character, that's pretty unusual.
Well, one of the things
like his family made decisions about stuff. His family wasn't just hapless victims,
Yeah.
Like these are things I'm sure that they actually consciously thought about. Now, was it like World War Z, the book, which is what I wanted it to be? Hell no.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things that I liked about Brooks is like if you hear him talking everything, he's like, most people aren't going to die from zombies if this happens. Most people are going to die because of dirty water. Like,
no, exactly.
No one wants to talk about dying of diarrhea.
No, it's totally true. So anyway, so. But it's good to think about these things and not think about them in isolated ways, but to talk with them to the person on the brother and sister on the block. Like I talk to homeless people about these kinds of things. Not to them, with them. I'm not preaching to them. I talk, because they have ideas about stuff too. I talk to the people at the grocery store about this stuff. I talk to the people at the gas station about this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If the space allows, to have conversation about things, because people are interested in this stuff. It's everywhere, And so, but I think that we need to consciously do that. And, I think another piece that we need to be conscious about, and I definitely don't know how it's going to play out in the next few, is the rise of individualist anarchism in the anarchist milieu. Is somewhat of a concern to me, and I don't know if you want to keep talking. I mean, we've been talking about
expand on that one for me a little bit.
Well, because there's a huge influence of individualist anarchy is really been on the rise for the last couple of years in the United States, and although I definitely I'm much more insurrectionary. I'm very much an insurrectionist as far as any tendency goes. If you had to say, what are you? If I had to throw myself into a box, it definitely is that. I don't believe that all organizations are bad. I don't believe all institutions are bad. I think it's the way that we enact them. And so I have concerns about individualist anarchists becoming depoliticized, right? That anarchy is just their way to drop out of society and not really have civil society and not have to participate in things. And I'm starting to see that. Or that their individualism in the manifestation of it, not the theoreticals of the people who write about it and the people who are actually long-term thinkers about it, but the way it actually comes out in young people and the way that they have modified. And I'll give you an example. When I was at the Anarchist Book Fair in San Francisco this spring, one of my favorite booksellers is there. They weren't at the big book fair, but they had split off to do a little book fair, but the Little Black Cart. And they're one of the purveyors of a lot of IA thought. Not that they write it, but they're publishing a lot of books and stuff. And the people who run Little Black Cart and who are engaged in that are actually really smart people and some good friends and comrades that I trust their thoughts and opinions on stuff, and some of them I would trust to watch trust with my life. But so I'm at the book fair, and somebody who is marginally affiliated with them is a young man, probably 21, 22 years old. He sees this guy who he says is a communist, and it's like some other guy who's about the same age, just a white kid these are both white kids, and this kid's got a ponytail, and he walks up to him, and he totally punches him in the face, and says, "You don't belong here. This is an anarchist space. You can't be." And this other kid's going like, what? Who are you? And he's like, "You're a communist. Get out of here." Now, so in and of itself, that I'm like, whatever. But then this guy writes this big communique the next day about how he had put anarchy in action, and like it had this huge manifesto about how he'd taken this individualist anarchist thought and he had translated it into action of protecting our space. And all I could think was like, "You're a jackass, man." Like, not because I disagree with action, but I'm like, you put all of this theory into something that was just fucking stupid. You just had fucking machismo right there. Not because I was like, hey, people shouldn't fight, because I'm like, look, let's mix it up. We got to mix it up. But that was a total bullshit. That was a total bullshit move. And so that was that's just one example of this. The other one is, like I said, is depoliticization, which is I talk to a lot of people who subscribe to individual anarchy. And what they want to do is they think that all forms of organization are bad. And listen, like like the IWW being around for a long time and having all these bylaws hasn't made them stop having infighting or being totally inefficient in some ways, right? We don't have to argue that platformism sucks.
Yeah.
Like, but there's liberatory ways that you can have organization with policies and bylaws that are actually guidelines that are living, that are not like set in stone, where you can actually do that. Well, I don't need somebody to come in and tell me that all rules are bad or all policies are bad or that organization is bad, because then there's no alternative to it, right? What is the alternative? Because they like it is if you or that we don't need to organize within the masses. I'm not even saying we need to organize the masses. There's a false dichotomy that's emerging between this individualist mood or this mass organization mode, and they're false. It's totally false. There can be a spectrum in between. So there's but what I see is that traveling around the country is I've seen the rise of IA influence in a lot of movements. So especially a lot of movements, anarchist movements, and so I have some concern about that. Not because I disagree with all the thought around it, because I actually do agree with it. The third major piece that I have with it, that I have concern with, is that the right wingers. And when I say right-wingers, it's a false dichotomy between right and left. It's a false binary. But people who came out of libertarian movements, a lot of those people already dissected Stirner and Benjamin Tucker and people like that. And that's how anarcho-capitalism came into be, and how agorism and voluntarism and all these things that kind of come out of this right tendency has started to exist. So what is different about leftists looking at those things than coming to the same conclusions? Mm-hmm. So it's, again, these are exploration of ideas. I'm not set in stone about anything. I'm just again a set of explorations.
I've never really thought about, like, I've known about individual anarchism, but I've never really been able to really come into grips with my own, because I've always viewed anarchism as a communal thing. That's what brought me to it, and why I maybe hold on to it so strongly, because it's about coming together as a community. I don't know. Right.
And but the thing is, I believe that if I was if I was to have a say in the future, like ATR, everything fell down, right? And we're going to rebuild societies based on anarchist ideas. One, I don't give a shit if we use that name or not, because it doesn't matter. It's just a point of reference. Yeah. But so I think that's important to recognize. But two, like I believe that the way we'd organize is that individuals might have their own land, that some places would be feral and wild, that people, it's like, could be hunter-gatherer or whatever. Other places could be highly organized syndicalists, small factory things that are not exploitative to the environment or to the people or to animals, and that there could be communes and collectives that are organized. Like, to me, that's the way it can be. I don't think that everybody has to be forced into a commune, or everybody has to be forced into a collective. I think that people should,
like, the whole basic of anarchism, as far as I'm concerned. So.
No, I totally agree with both of y'all on that. But there's some people who believe it's one way or another. You're either. But I mean, it's important to say autonomy and cooperation, right? Yeah. And how do they play in together? And the individual anarchist strain that's coming out of the right trajectory is very individualist. And they actually abhor collectivism, because the collectivism to them means this old school communist thing where you give away your old thing. What's the difference? So is that going to develop on the left in the same way, with a younger generation of people who don't have a lot of experience with it firsthand with Marxism and communist groups, because they don't exist like they used to?
Yeah.
So again, just another set of ideas that bounce around in my head, which will be addressed in this next book. So
that just reminded me. Out of boredom, I've been reading some Murray Rothbard. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, some weird ideas.
No, he does, but it's so do we, though, but we just don't recognize them as weird, because that's what we know.
I just don't know. I just can't get on board with the whole baby property, baby free market kind of thing.
Oh, right.
That's that kind of stuff. It's a little.
But here's the thing, though. There's something that we can learn from a lot of those people, though, right? And I think anarcho-capitalism is bullshit altogether. Okay, like, let's just, we don't have to even argue that.
Yeah,
but there's But there are market anarchists who are definitely left leaning and social libertarians all the way. But they just believe that markets is their avenue to freedom, just like syndicalists believe that workers is the way to freedom, or primitives feel like destruction of civilization is the way to freedom, right? Like it's just another tendency. And so actually, I think there's a lot, since they come out of this right trajectory. The way I look at it is it's a hierarchy with markets at the top. And then under that is social, political, and cultural, right? Where they feel like that level of importance. And those things are three things that are horizontally side by side underneath markets. Whereas we're the opposite. We have social, cultural, and political, and then we have markets far, far below in our hierarchy. And so I think that there's some synthesis that needs to happen in that, because we are fish in water again, and so that we do need to we do interact with the capitalist system to degrees. And I think that there's things that we need to figure out how we're going to engage in the capitalist system. Money didn't disappear, and we can't live not on money unless we just want to, live off the system. But how do we, we still, money can help do a lot of things. And so, but how do we not get caught up in the cycle where we build institutions that just justify themselves by raising more money to do things, or they become so fucking devoid of liberatory ideas that are not liberatory anymore. And so, again, these are just things that I think that there's some synthesis that is emerging right now. And actually, in the largest, if I can just pontificate a little longer, the largest segment I've seen grow in anarchy in the last, since Occupy, has definitely come out of that right trajectory. A lot of former Ron Paulers and stuff around the country. Mm-hmm. Large amounts, huge amounts.
Well, there are a lot of them are a lot closer to anarchist ideals than most people realize.
Mm-hmm. And, no, they totally are. So
one of the things that I've always had a hard time with is most anarchists I know, they put the market such at a low priority that it's almost like, well, that's just an afterthought. And I can't get my mind around that. And I haven't been able to find some, at least personally, so maybe you can help me on this, really good literature or really good places to wrap my head around deep how markets work and economic structures in anarchist societies. I've read most of the things that I know of that are out there, but
I read Accumulation of Freedom, and it kind of just bored me.
Yeah.
I'm not going to lie.
I honestly was not a fan of it.
No, there's a great book by this guy, Charles Johnson, and I'm sorry, I think it's Gary Chartier was the other guy, and it's a book called Markets Not Capitalism, and it just came out last fall, and it's really good. It's a really good book, because they come out of the social libertarian vein of things, and really good dissection of it. And also there's a website called C4SS, the Center for Stateless Society.
Yeah.
They write a lot of good stuff. It's kind of like HuffPo or anything where a lot of people contribute. They have regular contributors, but there's a guy, Kevin Carson, that writes a lot of good stuff on there. There's a guy named James Tuttle who writes a lot of good stuff on there. This woman named Crystal writes a lot of good stuff on there. There's people who talk about markets in a whole different way that aren't market anarchists, but also talk about how we need to make money and do stuff. And I actually have a lot of affinity with them, to degrees. Not because I believe that money is the only thing. I know I've talked a lot about worker co-ops and all this stuff, but again, I want to be sure that I'm telling you that's just one piece of all of these things. It's just an avenue that I think that we could work on. But if ATR, if shit fell down today, I actually think there's way more of them than there are of us, and then we'd actually be having to fall into their systems. Like these people who came out, because if a really bad analogy would be the Spanish anarchists. Like, we're the FAI, we're a way small thing, but they are the CNT. A lot of those people are the CNT, even if they're not about labor, but you know what I'm saying? Like, that's where they're coming out of. So,
man, you're making me think a lot today.
That'd be a lot of shit.
Jeez. Well, I hope it's fun enough, man. It's been engaging for me. So
this is the shit I thrive off of.
Yeah, this is fun.
I don't get it enough, unfortunately. So.
Right. I do too. But unfortunately, when I get home after being on the road of having these intense conversations, I normally have to take a break from them, to think and be by myself. So. But I saw you having Daniel Quinn on, and I'm super excited about that.
Well, that's a work in progress right now.
Yeah, apparently
he's really hesitant now to talk to us.
Oh, that sucks.
Because a lot of it has to do with veganism.
I think it has to do with veganism, honestly.
Right.
So
his book Beyond Civilization was very influential to me.
Yeah. Did you? What did you get from that? Because that was one that I had a little bit of trouble with.
But the thing is, I had context of reading the primitivist stuff that was coming out, the pamphlets that were coming out around the same time, and so I just thought it was a very mainstream version of thinking. Of course, there was like problematic things. It was a very mainstream version of the same ideas that civilization is not sustainable and that we need to figure out a way to do it. We need to think differently about stuff. And I read that fucking book 15 years ago, or whenever it came out. I forgot when it was. I could quote you from it right now.
I can't. I know this is just personal with me, but I cannot get my head around primitivism at all. A lot of them have written to me when I was in jail. A lot of them wrote to me.
Do you want John Zerzan on?
Oh, fuck no. I don't know. I don't know. For some reason, this is a personal thing. I'm not trying to put anything down. I'm just...
No. But the thing is, like, all of these tendencies, right, all have influence, right? Like the fact that we can have a conversation that civilization is not sustainable the way that we are, that the way that it engages is an important tendency to talk about. Now, what Derek and Lierre's plan is that, like, fuck it, just let all the poor people die and then we'll go live in the woods. I'm not down with, right?
Yeah.
But the ideas, I think, are have definitely gained a lot of ground and have a lot of influence that are really important. With DGR specifically, Deep Green Resistance, my concern is that book, and this is from real life experience, not from just sitting in my room, that had a lot of concerns about it driving people to actions that they would take out of desperation. Because I don't know if you'll know, that book is 700 pages, but it's about 60 pages, which reads like a fucking political manifesto of actually a military manual.
Honestly, I can't get into anything they do.
Well, the thing is, I have tremendous problems with them, and like, let's don't even. But I don't even want to waste.
Transphobia and all that other stuff.
No, and the fact that they are really DGR is really the RCP, like the way that they operate. No, that's a whole. There's a myriad of things like that. But the thing is, Derek didn't make up that INCIV analysis. He just took Zerzan's ideas and those British writers and stuff, and just made them palatable and made them very mainstream, made them much more flowery. And like, let's give him credit for that. He did that if he didn't do anything else. So, but those ideas have gained ground where they've needed to, because like when I was coming up in anarchy, like syndicalism was it, like it was still like class analysis and platformism was really big. I think it's really important for the insurrectionary tendencies that have risen in the last decade, and these primitivist tendencies to rise up, so we can think about things in a much more holistic way.
It's funny, like Zerzan was the first modern day anarchist I had ever read. And
I'm so sorry.
And like, honestly, like it took me for a whole I almost completely abandoned it at that point, because it's just like, fuck this guy. But
jeez,
as soon as I started reading about abandoning art, I'm just like, what the hell? Where the fuck is this coming from?
No clock strikes
right.
for the happy one.
Yeah, no clock strikes for the happy one.
Let me tell you a quick Zerzan story too. Like I saw him speak. They brought him to Austin in like 2000 or something. Maybe it's 2000. Yeah, it was around 2001. It was when he was having his heyday for a minute.
Yeah.
So he was running the Eugene Anarchist. And so they brought him here, and I was pumped to see him, even though I had a lot of reservations. I want to challenge him on a lot of ideas and stuff. And he shows up late to speak, and he comes up to the podium, and he's got a giant, like a 64-ounce Chick-fil-A styrofoam cup, and he sets it right on the edge of the podium to start his talk.
What?
And the fucking room is just like, oh, like everybody's like, what's going on here? And then he starts talking, and the motherfucker is stoned out of his mind, which I don't have any problem with, because I like to smoke some weed, but not before you're going to talk. And he was fucking totally incoherent, and it was a fucking complete waste of time.
So a lot like his books.
Yeah, exactly. It was like 25 minutes. And I'm like, can you just shut up? And he droned on. I was watching my watch after 25 minutes, man. I was like, oh my gosh. And luckily he just wrapped it up and left, and that was it. It was terrible, and I have nothing good to say about his speaking engagement. Although I was super pissed off about the cup at the time, later I've come to appreciate it a lot more, because I'm sure he did it in a challenging way, right? People's assumptions about him, and then also our assumptions about culture, and to show that he's anti-civ, but he's still part of this machine.
I think you're giving him too much credit.
Okay, yeah, he's a fuckhead. Fuck him.
So
he was high and wanted the sandwich.
Yeah.
That's really probably what was going on. I was trying to give him a little bit of fucking credit for a second,
The most irritating I've ever been was I don't know if you know the radio program Coast to Coast AM.
Yes.
He was on Coast to Coast probably 10 years
They
ago.
tried to have me on too, yeah.
But he was on, and it was the first time like I'd ever heard him speak. And the entire time I was calling in, trying to yell, "He doesn't fucking represent us!" Like, because it was the most horrible horseshit. Because he was representing himself as anarchism, not like this very tight subset, you know.
Narrow. Yes, yeah.
It was
And that
driving me
guy's-
insane.
But you know what I learned a lot from him and Chomsky about being an author is that you can write the same book over and over again and people will still buy it. And I was like, holy shit. I know neither one of them are doing it for money, but I'm like, damn, thank you. Why didn't somebody just write that down? You want to be an author? Write the same book over and over again and you got a legacy. I was like, shit, I'm in. So
what did Coast to Coast, they try to get you on?
yeah, they tried. And I was like, I turned them down. I turned down a bunch of shit. It was when the New York Times article broke. Got all kinds of media inquiries for follow up and stuff. One of them wanted me to be on one of those reality TV shows, but it was about where somebody had stalked you, and then they they wanted me to reenact it and all this stuff. And I was like, oh hell no, I'm not going to be on that.
Somebody should pitch a real reality show about anarchist organizing. Like, just throw a bunch of anarchists together and be like, "Hey, we'll go."
And we all gotta watch it and make fun of them.
Oh gosh. Well, I'll tell you a silly story. Have you ever heard of the movie Anarchist Cookbook?
Yes,
Yeah.
I own it actually.
It's totally based on a collective house that I used to be a part of.
Really?
Yes. That film was fucking made in Dallas, where I was living, and they wanted us to consult on the film, but we had already known that they were going to do a terrible job with it.
I thought it was hilarious. Like, I just laughed and I watched it.
I only watched it more recently because they're like, you got to see it. I was like, no way, man. I was like, I totally. It was like, it's just so weird. But you talk about reality, I'm like, oh, that's what people think about anarchy. You know, like, oh, it was horrifying to us when it came out.
Yeah, but the only way to break that mold is to get out there more.
No, and that's what I do. You know, that's my whole fucking pitch, right?
Yeah.
So I get kicked for it for not being clear enough about all the anarchist ideas. I'm like, look, I just open the door. Y'all can do all the rest of the work. You know?
That's awesome.
So, yeah, but George Norrie and them, I had to turn that down because I hate that show, and I did definitely not want to be on there. So
Yeah, I actually stopped listening after Zirzan was on. I was that upset.
Yeah.
Like,
well, everything on there is fucking infuriating, you know, to all degrees.
I remember a time when I was in prison, I would stay up until like 2 or 3 a.m. so I could listen to it sometimes when I was
Oh, right. I could see that. I mean, it's like familiarity, right? It's been on forever and ever and ever, and it's fucking engaging, right?
once Art Bell left,
But you don't-
went downhill.
But you don't want to be the subject of it, right? Because you know they're going to get it wrong, and you're going to fucking try to explain things, and they're going to, you know, then they're going to, like, some UFO person's going to call in, like, while you're on, and you're like, this has nothing to do with it. They're like, no, they're sending beams to my head, and then, you know, so.
And then the lizard people come out. Those.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly.
That's why I enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie, I like those people.
Those are my people.
They represent me.
Well, we've got Alex Jones here, and that's bad enough.
Oh yeah.
It's the same show, more emphatic fear mongering.
I've read some of his things, and they're just ridiculous.
I don't know who he is.
Oh, good. Don't you want to get a conversation?
Yeah.
You'll have to have that conversation later. I hate that guy too much.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I was gonna mention with Derek Jensen though. When I read What We Leave Behind, I just couldn't read anything else after his excuse for not being vegan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he says it's Crohn's disease, and then he went on something about how he only eats sustainable, happy meat. I'm like, you can't.
Happy meat's not sustainable.
It's not sustainable. Not everyone in the world could eat that way, especially at the rate that we consume right now. So,
No, that's definitely. Well, this is where, if you want to get to some controversy for a second, where I part ways with a lot of vegan thinking, though, is because I want animal liberation, right? I want non-exploitation. I think, you know, there's circuses as we know them and stuff should never exist. I don't want kinder, gentler cages. There should not be McDonald's and KFC and stuff like that. It's all about factory farming, right? Have nothing, but where I differ is that I would, given circumstances, I would eat meat if I was going to kill it myself.
I've always said that.
Like, so like if I kill a deer, I'll eat it, but until then I'm not going to do it. And I don't, like, I think it's less so now. I don't like self-righteous vegans who are like, I'm totally, like 100% vegan. I don't want to have anything, but they're eating like, factory candy bars and tofu cuties and stuff. And like, and I love all that shit, but it's just like, that's not helping. That is not creating a compassionate world. It's just it's just a subset in the giant factory machine. And so that's where I'd run into a lot of, not so much anymore, but I used to run into a big difference with a lot of AR people around those issues.
Yeah, I've always said that. I've always gotten into huge arguments about it.
I'd say I don't want to get to that point, but if I had to get to that point, you never know.
Right. Well, I'll give you an example. Is that I stayed vegan in New Orleans and it was stupid. I was eating the worst food I could eat because there wasn't anything, and I wasn't getting enough nutrients and vitamins to maintain myself.
Mainly rations, right?
Yeah, for the first month or so, and then after that, it still wasn't that good. It wasn't a great selection of stuff, and I just wasn't able to take enough calories in. And it was really detrimental to my body and to my emotional health. And then and so like when I came out of New Orleans, I was like, I want to get off the grid in the city because I know how fast shit can fall down. So I like put solar panels on my house, and I got water catchment. I was going to collect thousands of gallons of rainwater. I didn't do everything, but I also was like, I'm going to raise gardens. I'm going to raise animals, not to eat them, but I was going to. So I started growing, raising chickens in my backyard. And so now, like I say I'm vegan, but I'm not really, because I eat eggs regularly, from my backyard. But I also am not exploiting the animals in any way, and no AR person can convince me in any other way. My chickens own the backyard; it's theirs. Them and my rescue turkey and my rabbit and my 2 goats all run around the backyard, and they can do whatever they want. I have no say. If they want to run away, they can do that too.
Not that I do it, but I've always argued that having eggs is one of the few things that you can eat from animals that isn't completely exploitive.
Well, yeah, and it's weird because like they just lay them. Like you cannot, like I can't make them stop. That's just what they do.
I mean, they're not even fertilized, so it's not even like you're.
No, exactly. You're not killing an animal.
Yeah.
Right. So there's definitely I think in rethinking it, and it was really good. I went to this conference just recently called Resistance Ecology, which is the first AR conference I've been to, animal rights. Sorry, I keep saying AR, but where it really was much more inclusive and much more intersectional than any other conference. It really was talking about. There was meat eaters there. There was definitely a wider array of people that were definitely like in the thought process about like how do we really have these points of intersection in the liberation struggles.
One of the things that I've always gotten in trouble for is I will openly admit that I'm a speciesist. Like. I care more about myself than I do about another animal. And, completely. Like, if I had to choose between, saving Jordan's life and saving a dog's life, I'm going to save Jordan. Fucking sorry.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
If that's speciesism, that's speciesism. But I have a hard time when people won't acknowledge just these basic truths. If it's between me surviving and a pig surviving. Sorry, fucking pig. Like,
no, exactly.
There's no question.
And I understand why people with privilege can go like I'm a speciesist or we're speciesists for saying that, because they're like totally living on the grid, right? Or they live off the grid completely some way, like people can write position papers. And I'm glad that they're forcing us, again, like any radical idea, like it's a marginal idea, just like the idea that we should be compassionate to animals, that animals are conscious and thinking at all. Those are radical concepts at one point, But we need people to push that envelope so that the rest of us can move to this other area where like, hey, look, we don't want kinder, gentler cages, or, for other people to go like, hey, we do actually want kinder, gentler cages, or, or whatever it is, I think it's important for somebody to hold it down. I just don't want the moralizing on it. And it's actually way less in the AR movement than it used to be. And the people that I love and have the most respect for aren't that way so much. Maybe Steve Best is the only one, and I take the love and respect. I have respect for him, but
yeah, it definitely was way more pervasive about 10 years ago, I would say. Mm-hmm. Like,
yeah,
it would almost sometimes come to like, blows.
Yeah.
Right. No, totally. And the same with straight edge stuff too, right? So, and I think that's calmed down in a lot of ways now, where people have gotten much more, reasonable about it.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up straight edge. I still am. I'm in my 30s. And
yeah.
I really think maybe I'll get shit for this. I'm only pretty much straight edge now because I'm used to it.
Well, I mean, I would say, I tell you the same. My dietary choices. It's because it's what I know. It's way easier that way. I know this is how I eat and stuff. So definitely, and I think a lot of things, and I think that's good. I think that's the enculturation that we need.
I'm really glad I grew up.
It just is.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say I was really glad I grew up straight edge. I think it helped me a ton getting through learning how to cope with problems and learning how to just deal with real life and kept me clean like all through high school and getting So I'm really glad about that. I don't regret any of it, but there's no real basis for me now to it's just more
right.
Yeah, I think I think it's nice to remember. Like I always forget why I'm vegan. Well, I don't forget, but it just becomes habit. But it's good to every once in a while just remember why I'm doing it. Okay.
Right, but also, I guess it's been that long process of learning and remembering too. Is that I know my dietary choices used to have probably a larger impact when there was no vegan options anywhere than they do now. Right, when it's been totally absorbed into mainstream culture in so many ways. Not it doesn't when I say mainstream, I'm talking about corporate America, corporate world. But I really recognize that like destroying the natural world. Is super important probably more important than my dietary choice. If we allow them to destroy the natural world, it's killing all non-human animals right and left, so that we can do things. And so I've definitely had a lot of focus on that for the last decade or so, So, but I love you guys, but I gotta go. I didn't realize I gotta go feed my animals because they're actually gonna be looking for me right now.
Oh shit! I didn't realize how long we'd kept you.
I know. I hope you're going to edit this down to about 5 minutes, right?
Give or take.
If we edit anything.
Not the cuss words. Just have it all cussing. Just like
have it all cussing?
All cussing marathon.
Well, thank you so much. This was like a ton of fun.
Yeah, it was super, super good. And I'm happy to be on again anytime, in the future if y'all ever want to do another round about things.
And, I was super bummed I couldn't see you when you were in Salt Lake, but I couldn't find someone to watch my daughter.
Yeah, I'm super bummed about my Tascam not working very well, so I couldn't record the...
Well, that thing about being interviewed a lot? Well, a lot of people recorded my talk, so anytime you want to get the audio from one of those, there's a fucking 15 or 20 of them on there, and it's almost the same rock and roll show. It's like, every time. So.
As long as we can capitalize on it, we'll get it.
Yeah, exactly. Go ahead. No, it's like a Pearl Jam show or something. It's just bootlegged all over. He's like, I like the Dallas version better than I like the Phoenix version of that show. It's like...
But the Salt Lake version was the best, and
yeah, exactly.
But it's rare; it's way bootleg.
Well, you always got to make it a little different, right? Like your hometown's like Salt Lake City. How's it going, everybody? All right. I'm so glad to be here.
Wait, where are we again?
Yeah, right before. Where are we?
Exactly. No, so. Good luck with everything, and when you guys post this, let me know, and I'll definitely get out to my networks also. If you decide to. If you decide not to use it, I'm cool with that. Just send it to me. I'll lock it away in my vault someday.
We'll definitely use it.
Yeah, we'll definitely use it. We'll put everything out. Don't worry about that. That's
great. That's great. And tell Daniel Quinn that I was asking about him. So
okay.
He's like, now who? Yeah, but act like he's like, no. I think y'all know each other, right? Like it's like just totally play it off.
Okay,
we'll try.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, thank you so much. It was an honor. It was super fun too. Great to talk to you guys.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care.
See you later.
Bye-bye.
Today we heard Rowland Incarve, Untitled, Coyote Cleanup, Silver Fox Dub Part 1, Synthetic Epiphany, Rebirth, and for a theme song, as always, Comandantes, Which Side Are You On?
This episode is brought to us by Bombs Beating Hearts, where you can go to bombsandbeatinghearts.bandcamp.com, download their album, where 100% of the proceeds goes to us to produce this wonderful podcast for you. You can also donate via whichsidepodcast.com, via PayPal and Bitcoin. And fuck Amazon.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.
Fuck shit damn.